Hey there, Taurus, and welcome to your 2026 year ahead horoscope. We're going to look at how some of the outer planets are going to be impacting you in this year, how their moves and their shifts are going to be aligning with your chart, and where the eclipses are going to be shifting into your chart as well. So I have some general dates here that are going to point to when the energies are going to be changing and shifting for you. So the Saturn-Neptune Conjunction is going to happen on the 20th of February of 2026 in your 12th house. Neptune will be moving into that house right at the end of January. It's going to stay there until about 2039. Saturn's going to move into Aries around the 14th of February, and it will stay there until about 2028. Uranus is going to be moving into your second house starting on the 26th of April of 2026, and that will stay there through the end of the year. And then, in fact, into about 2033, it's going to be in your second house. We also have Jupiter moving into your fourth house on the 30th of June of 2026, and that's going to carry through the end of the year all the way until approximately June, July of 2027. Pluto is going to be in your 10th house all year. That's going to be there until about 2043. And then we also have the eclipses have been taking place in your 5th and 11th houses, but we're also going to take into consideration the fact that those are also going to be shifting into that same axis with Jupiter and Pluto, your 4th and your 10th houses. So we'll look at these individually, but we'll also weave them together as we go and see where a lot of the emphasis is going to be placed in your life in this coming year. So as I mentioned, the Saturn-Neptune conjunction is going to be taking place in your 12th house. So your 12th house has to do with your own inner world. This has to do with your subconscious. This can do with the aspects of your life that you spend in solitude or introspection. This can be a place where we feel a bit bereft, or even where we can experience some challenges or a personal sense of loss or grief and emotionality. Now, what's interesting is that with that Saturn-Neptune conjunction there, yes, there may be a theme along the lines of disillusionment in this year, but it's actually really, really helpful to have that Saturn-Neptune conjunction in that 12th house. Because basically what it's going to be doing is bringing a lot of healing, releasing, reimagining, a lot of spiritual discipline to this house that does so well with those kinds of energies. So whenever we're able to really take seriously those 12th house energies and do them correctly, do them from a mature perspective, a spiritual kind of a perspective, and as conscious an awareness of what's going on for us internally as possible, the better. There's very likely to be some experiences or lessons around some boundaries or releasing unconscious patterns, any sort of hidden fears, any challenging habits that you've been holding on to. There's basically this kind of dissolving of old structures, testing of faith, and integrating spirit into form that's taking place in this area of your spiritual life and of your internal life. So for you, it's likely that this is going to be a bit more of an esoteric or a bit more of a heady or internalized process of the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, which again is about letting go of outdated belief systems, authorities, things like this, and reality testing our perspectives and our narratives. For you, this is going to be about, say, conditioning or lessons that you've internalized, ideas that you've internalized that aren't really serving you, that are very likely self-limiting beliefs that may in fact even be inhibiting you or holding you back in some way. Confronting those illusions there, being open to release the comfort zones, the safety mechanisms of limitation, of holding back, of staying in a comfort zone, of sweeping things under the rug, of allowing for ourselves to feel like something's a little bit off, but just kind of ignore it or just try to put it on the back burner until we can deal with it later. Because often this is an area, this internal world of ours, that we can really back burner and that we tend to de-emphasize in our lives because we're trying to get things done. We're trying to be really practical. But this is working on that in the background, and it's making that subconscious of yours, again, if you are able to work with this at all, it can help to make that much more, again, self-aware. So that's super helpful. Whenever we can shed some consciousness into this house of the subconscious, then it stops acting on its own, and it starts acting better in accordance with our own will, so less than against us. And less from a place of fear or instinct, more from a place of mind and reason. So there will need to be some surrender, especially around matters of control or belief, or again, those self-limiting beliefs that it can feel very paradoxical, but sometimes they just feel safer than letting them go. Because if we let them go, then we might need to accept, hey, maybe I've been held back by this, and maybe I don't need to, and maybe I need to kind of step into a new role, a more powerful role. And that's going to be playing into that Pluto that we'll discuss toward the end here for you as well. So reality testing your internalized beliefs, discerning illusion in the subconscious from a sense of genuine inner truth for yourself. And especially where any of this winds up intersecting with faith or spiritual narratives as well, this can really feel like there's a kind of guardian angel stepping in, where these dreams of yours, maybe that you've even held in, dreams of kind of being freed up, dreams of transcending some limitations, where you're able to bring those into form or bring them into your tangible reality and make them real in this time. And that can really feel like you're experiencing some kind of otherworldly intervention, basically, to have those things lined up in this way. And this will certainly be building up your spiritual practice, deepening that. But yeah, ultimately, this is going to be fundamentally restructuring your inner world, what it is that you rely on internally. Like I said, possible disillusionment, which is going to necessitate some level of realism and a sense of humility and willingness to give up some old beliefs, healing any sort of ego attachments to outdated belief structures, things like this, outdated habits too. Some difficult or challenging habits can also show up in this place. And those are also often very difficult to give up, even though we are fully aware of the fact that it's kind of getting in the way. We can really hold on to those things. And that's what's really going to be getting pointed out by these two in this coming year. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's almost like a restructuring of your spiritual practice as well, like grounding your spirituality into a kind of practical framework too. But this is also going to be working really strongly on your sense of compassion. So a really strong sensitivity to suffering of yourself and other people, a lot of compassion, feeling a strong sense of collective, like social responsibility, very mature compassion. And you may find that people are kind of leaning on your shoulder a bit more throughout this period of time when you do open up. Do keep in mind, there's probably some boundary work here for you. So, it can be a little bit annoying when we're doing a bunch of emotional labor for people if we don't feel like we're able to open up to them as well. But I wouldn't be surprised to see people kind of gravitating toward you for some sense of guidance or wisdom or insight that you're able to provide on some kind of a challenging situation. And again, maybe that is a loss of faith, either for you or for other people around you as well. Because when we have that Saturn-Neptune conjunction, wherever we have it, there can be an erosion of authority. And the 12th house does have a huge amount to do with spirituality. So maybe there has been someone that you have followed, or maybe there's been a practice or a tradition that you followed for some time that you just kind of feel like you're outgrowing. These things don't have to be explosive. The Saturn-Neptune conjunctions actually are often quite quiet, and we can see the cracks ahead of time. We can see the writing on the wall ahead of time if we're paying attention. And for you, it's likely that you would be really internally feeling it as well. One thing I would recommend with these two is that taking care of yourself if you feel any sort of overwhelm or fatigue or anything like this, there's going to be a lot of healing and releasing and so forth. Regardless of whether you're doing that consciously, it'll be going on in the background. So you may just find that you may need to give yourself a little bit more time to relax, a bit more permission, I would say. It's probably a better word, to take some time out, to relax, to breathe, to allow for the subconscious processing to take place and to recharge your batteries also from that process. And trying not to feel guilty as well. If you feel any sort of strange feelings of guilt or like self-doubt, things like that creeping in, that can be the kind of side effects of that Saturn-Neptune in that 12th house there. So I would just be as gentle as you can. That compassion of yours, I would really hope that you can turn that toward yourself as much as you possibly can throughout the coming year or two, really. And I think that that's going to help with the healing process a whole heck of a lot. If we can't be patient with ourselves through that process, it usually winds up taking quite a bit longer. This will also be really crystallizing your intuition as well. So if that's something that you've been working on, that you've been trying to build up, either a divination practice or working on your intuition, your spiritual connection, this is going to have that feeling a lot more tangible. So when it comes to evidence, when it comes to things feeling a lot more real in the spiritual realm, that will also be really well supported by that Saturn coming through there. But yeah, again, on a psychological level, this is going to be heavy on boundaries. That is going to be necessary for sure. This is going to point out where those have maybe been too strong, like walls have been up a bit too much, maybe out of fear or self-doubt or something, a self-limiting belief about whether you can open up to someone or any sort of deservingness or inhibitions or anything like that. But also where they may have been a bit too porous and where you've been absorbing other people's energies quite a bit or been trying a bit too hard to live up to the expectations of others rather than following what you truly feel is right. Again, on that instinctual, intuitive kind of gut level with Neptune in that place. So also speaking a lot to your sense of personal responsibility and maturity. You may be really internalizing those kinds of roles of an understanding of the impact that you have on other people and even the impact that your internal states can have on those around you as well, and your ability or willingness or desire to connect with other people. This will also be working quite a bit on your imagination and idealization. So if you are a creative type at all, this is going to help out a lot with that. In fact, this can, on occasion, throw up some creative blocks here and there, but it's going to be worth it because when those two are working together in a more kind of cooperative way, which will be most of the time, they will be having you take that imagination, that creative work very seriously, but it's also going to help to channel that muse, Neptune in your 12th, through that Saturn in the 12th, bring it into form. So when it comes to what is the ideal and what's the form that that ideal is taking, you can get those a lot closer together with that Saturn-Neptune conjunction there. On a more esoteric level, there's going to be matters along the lines of limits and limitlessness and form and formlessness. So this is going to be a period of time where meditation and transcendence, I think, is also going to be quite significant. If you can incorporate any of that, even if it's not meditation, but just study, just looking at those kinds of physical transcendent concepts and things like that may really help to open this aspect of you up as well. Certainly when we start meditating on those things, when we really start like to transcend ourselves, that does a real great number on subconscious blockages and things like that, because then suddenly the ego constraints and things like this can just kind of fall away. And so that may be an accelerant with this alignment as well. Yeah, this is just fundamentally speaking to a new internal karmic cycle and a kind of birth or setting in motion of a new cycle of stepping up, or I guess a term that would be used for that would be like ascending spiritual frameworks as well. If this does call you to spend more time in solitude, please don't feel bad about that. That is definitely called for with this alignment here. So I would expect for you to be receiving some of those nudges to just kind of be going within quite a bit more, because there's a lot to work on and to work with internally. So with that said, let's go ahead and discuss the fact that Uranus, as it moves into Gemini permanently now, this is going to be in your second house until about 2033, 2034. So for about 7 years, we're going to have this in your second house. And Uranus in Gemini is going to be bringing up major themes along the lines of innovation, freedom, disruption, awakening, a lot of acceleration with this. And this is in your second house of your personal finances and your resources across the board, as well as what you value, including yourself, the extent to which you value yourself. So one of the things that I've been noticing for you guys for Taurus is that with Pluto in Aquarius and Uranus in Gemini, there does seem to be a major emphasis here on shifts and changes and quantum leaps, as well as liberations and desiring to break free when it comes to matters of your career and your earning. So on the material level, I really would not be surprised if there's going to be some shifts and changes in your career, if not specifically this year, then in the coming several years, without a doubt, there's going to be some pretty substantial shifts that you would not have expected. So this can be going independent, could be a major aspect of this if you are like in consulting, or if there is some interest that you have in monetizing a skill on your own, where you're not working for someone, but you're stepping into that role of like running a company basically for yourself. That's one thing that I would really expect for you. There are some major sudden breakthroughs as well when it comes to your finances and your values, your resources with Uranus in that second house. Now, one of the things is that it can go up and down. So when you do get the upswings of Uranus in that second house, I would definitely recommend saving, because of the fact that there can be downswings as well, or those upswings, those quantum leaps might not just go on forever. It may be an accelerant and then you hold there and then you get another accelerant. Like, try not to just expect exponential growth just because you hit a curve that looks like it could become that, right? So Uranus is going to be kind of like that. So as practical as you can be and as steady as you can be when it comes to your resources, I think the better, because of the fact that the shifts are going to come in kind of naturally, and you're going to be magnetized toward a greater sense of freedom and liberation from material constraints with this. So you're already going to have that impetus to make the changes that you're wanting. This, I would say, does call for you to study as much as you possibly can the expenditure, the outflow, because of the fact that the inflow, yes, there's going to be those steps up, but it will shift and change. So huge amounts of changes, breaking from convention, reimagining how it is that you are earning your money. You may be making some surprising investments that could wind up paying off. I'm not a financial advisor. I don't know what those would be. There may even be some that do not pay off. So I wouldn't, just because I'm mentioning this, decide to make any sort of risky investments. But you may be desiring at some point in this year or in the coming years to start trading or to start studying trading. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's something about crypto or tech investment or something like that, just with that Uranus in Gemini there. That does speak to new technologies that may be a part of your resources somehow. Yeah, trying to break free from either economic constraints. So this could be like you're freeing yourself up from some debts or from some people who are relying on your resources and therefore freeing up more for you. Or again, raises, promotions, going independent. Now, aside from the financial aspect of this, this is also going to be speaking to your values, and your values may be shifting quite a bit as well. With the Saturn-Neptune conjunction working on your beliefs and then Uranus working on your values, this could definitely speak to just like a change almost in your worldview, or a change in how you view yourself and your role in the world, and what it is that you prioritize and emphasize, what you think is significant in your life, like how you would kind of weigh all of that up, and what's then coming first and second and third in terms of what is of importance to you. So shifting those values and beliefs up quite a bit in this coming year. This can also have you like breaking out of systems of comfort and security. So if that's something that you have focused on quite a bit, which would make sense with Taurus in your chart, that would be something important for you. Uranus has been going through your first house for the past 7 years or so. So strangely, you've been getting jolts when it comes to you as an individual already. This is now shaking up any sort of attachments to overly rigid security systems and things like that. And I don't mean like house security systems. I mean like the systems, the structures that you set up in your life to feel secure. Now, beyond financial questions, this is also going to be speaking to matters of your values. So what is it that you value? And it's going to be playing into then the conjunction of Saturn and Neptune in your 12th house around beliefs as well. So your values and beliefs shifting around the same period of time does look quite a bit like a major sea change in terms of your priorities and what is of significance to you. So this could be stepping away, potentially even like this could be liberation from possessions in some way. And I don't mean that in a like, giving up everything kind of a thing, but maybe in a little bit more of a minimalism kind of a thing, releasing some material attachments or an overemphasis on possessions. This could even be cashing out from some investments as well, or no longer seeking a sense or a definition of status that is very conventional, but just doesn't quite align with you anymore and your values. This can also shift and change and reform your sense of value of yourself as well. And like I said, that's going to be working with the Saturn and Neptune that are in your 12th house, which are also working on your ability to see your personal value in terms of your beliefs and any sort of self-limiting beliefs, releasing those. So we could also see some major quantum leaps when it comes to your sense of self-value. And that may be part of where you feel like you're kind of getting permission to shake things up when it comes to your priorities as well. Because it looks to me like you are really calling the shots quite a bit more when it comes to your own priorities, defining those for yourself. Because this is really about reframing your narratives on both sides of this. So really radical new perspectives internally, but then also in terms of what it is that you're growing in your life. So I feel like you are acting upon a lot of these kind of insights that you're getting as well. But again, I would just recommend there can be some restlessness, impulsiveness, instability in our own action that can come through from us whenever we have Uranus in any given house or sign. And so for you with that in that financial house or that house of possessions, I would just try to think through some of your financial or resource-based decisions before leaping. So look before you leap, think things through before you make major changes. Try not to, I have it here, avoid impulsive financial decisions or unstable notions of your value. Again, like I was saying with the income could go way up at certain points, but it might not permanently just keep going way up. And additionally, there may be some slumps as well. So planning for that. Also, when it comes to the notions of your value, your self-value, try to make sure that that is as even-keeled as possible as well. So not letting that slip just because it has been grown, or at least let it just slip to maybe a realistic space rather than falling backwards or feeling like you're having a lot of really strong highs and lows when it comes to the value that you place on yourself as well. Additionally, there can be a sense of like burnout from constant change that can come through with this as well. So if there are major career shifts and changes and you're pushing and trying to free yourself up, trying to feel much more liberated when it comes to your material life or your success, things like this, you may need to take some time to rest at certain periods. We also saw that with the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in the 12th. The way that this is aligning to Pluto in your 10th is going to really emphasize pushing for those changes quite a bit. And we can't keep up always trying to maximize our efficiency and maximize the amount of leaps that we can take. So try to kind of keep that in check as well, I think. Additionally, if you are feeling an urge to become more and more self-reliant and self-sufficient, I would not cut off your nose to spite your face here. So I wouldn't just cut yourself off from that which feels like a dependency all at once for little other reason than to reinforce that feeling of self-reliance and self-sufficiency. If there is a person with which you are collaborating financially and it's kind of going okay and there's not major issues, I wouldn't necessarily say to totally rock that boat or leap off of that boat, basically, just to free yourself up. And that may be an urge that you feel at some point as well. So also something to kind of keep in mind there, because there is, on the psychological level with this, there's going to be that major liberation impulse with this and a kind of tension between individuality and like reliance upon other people. And this will be working on your self-trust quite a bit. So you may be feeling like you're doing some major trust falls with yourself. And that can be wonderful and great, but it can also sometimes go a little bit too far when we have Uranus there. Now, on an esoteric level, this is going to be stirring up some kind of divine discontent when it comes to your material life. Now, this doesn't, as I kind of alluded to, this doesn't just mean, oh, I need to make more money and I need to have more things. This can also be desiring to be liberated from being held by those notions. That might not actually be what liberation feels like, or freedom, financial freedom feels like to you. You'll definitely need to define that for yourself. And I would imagine that there's going to be some aspects of just financial freedom, meaning that you have the comfort and security in yourself to be able to feel like you can make your own decisions as necessary and not worry, basically, about that. I would imagine that that's going to be an aspect here. But yeah, additionally, I would just say, finally, with this, if there are some disruptions when it comes to financial considerations, things like this, maybe unexpected expenses or even upsets in like your career path, basically kind of getting thrown into something else, basically, I would try not to fret too much. Those kinds of things are called for here. But I would say that if you feel that sense of like divine discontent deeply in a role that you are in, and there's something you can do about it, if you can start to look for a different position, a different role, a different situation, and you can try to plan ahead for that and make those changes willingly, that's usually a better way to go when we're dealing with Uranus and Pluto, for you impacting that material status, career aspect of your life. It's usually better if we really work actively with that energy than if we try to resist it. It's when we try to resist it that things can really feel like they're destabilizing and like we've lost a sense of control over that aspect of life. So pay attention to those feelings if they do wind up coming up and see what adjustments you can make. It doesn't have to be an all or nothing kind of a thing. When we're dealing with Uranus, it can be satisfied by making some tweaks that wind up freeing us up and making us feel a lot more comfortable and a lot less restricted. So yeah, I would really look for those opportunities if those feelings start to get really strong. Now, looking now at Jupiter in Leo. This is going to be moving into Leo again on the 30th of June of 2026, and it'll stay there till about the June-July timeframe in 2027. And that Jupiter is going to be moving from your third house into your fourth house. So it's moving from this area of your community and communication, connections, the people, places, things around you, correspondences, speaking, your voice, your verbal expression, and things like this, as well as extended family, into a more rooted space of your fourth house. So this is moving into then a space of your home, your family, your roots, your origin, where you're living as well. And so Jupiter tends to bring a sense of luck and joy and a sense of things going more smoothly. So, and expanding, growing quite a bit as well. So we typically like to lean into whatever areas it's impacting. It can be very helpful. In Leo, it's going to be really emphasizing having a lot of courage, creativity, joy, play, even leisure. And it can speak to a place where we can have a lot of like bold self-expression, confidence, leadership, and magnetism. And that for you is showing up in your home life. So this can speak to the physical home, the literal house or apartment that you live in, or, any other structure that you may live in, and the people that you live with, your actual family of origin, created families, people that you consider to be family. But it can also speak to your core self. So deep down, your foundation within yourself. And this is working up a huge amount of warmth and generosity, even like optimism and enthusiasm that are infusing your home life. This can be impacting, again, your family connections or those with the people that you live with, but it can also speak to an opportunity for expansion or upgrades or renovations or even relocation if that's something that you're really desiring. And especially because the eclipses are going to show up here, I'm going to mention that again when we come back around to that. This can speak to a physical move, like an actual opportunity to move that may come in kind of surprisingly. But you may also find that you're really enjoying your home and your home life. As I mentioned with the Saturn-Neptune, if you are being kind of called to spend more time in solitude or more time in private, that is going to be quite helpful. And this Jupiter is going to reinforce that quite a bit too. So on the one hand, you may be taking quite a bit of pride in your family and your home. You may be hosting and beautifying your home space, but you may also simply be enjoying it more on your own and spending more time there. You may be working on some private, creative, or imaginative like projects and things like that as well in the home space, in private for now. If that is the case, those should go over so incredibly well in this coming year, because of these alignments in the 4th and 12th houses. And that Jupiter will move forward, and it's going to trine that Saturn a couple times as well. So that's going to help quite a bit with bringing things into form. This can also help to mend connections within your family. So if there has been any sort of shaky relationships or just a lack of warmth, that's going to bring that energy back around again. It's going to infuse again the home life also in terms of your family with that warmth and generosity, big-heartedness, basically, being affirming of others as well, possibly even being looked up to in your family as like a mentor, taking a family member under your wing. So in terms of some opportunities with this is going to really strengthen a deep core sense of self-belief and an ability to feel safe with your foundations, which is great because of some of these fundamental shifts and changes that you're going through otherwise in your life. It can also really solidify or kind of plant a seed for you around the value of your own leadership as well, and your ability to lead from a space of goodwill or warmth or inspiration. It's also going to bring a lot of joy and creativity and play into your home life and help to reinforce that as a priority as well, those enjoyable aspects of life, leaning into that more. And that should hopefully help with some of the career and material focus and changes basically that are coming up here. Now, some of the shadow things that can come through with this would be seeking validation from family members. So a kind of outsized influence around family. I would expect that would be coming in, but also pay attention to the fact that the words that you say, how you carry yourself, etc., that's likely to be having a strong impact on your family as well. So that is a two-way street around a strong influence there, but trying not to be over-reliant upon that or pushing too much your views about what your family should be doing, for instance. There can also be an over expenditure on the home. So this can go toward luxury, like big upgrades. So I would just pay attention to how much is getting spent there. Again, that Uranus in the 2nd house could be a really big kind of expense that is coming up. And it doesn't have to be a surprise. That could be something that you are instituting as well. Now, this can speak to if you own property, for instance, the value of that going really, really, really high. And you may then need to make some decisions around that as well. Appraisals could also go pretty high, though. So if that's something that you're wanting to avoid, maybe kind of think that through and consider that ahead of time as well. There can also be some drama that comes through with Jupiter in Leo here. So if there's family drama, I would just try to, or envy even, or competition within your family, try to bring it back to that Jupiter in Leo, affirming and building each other up, and that big-heartedness, warm-heartedness. Try to bring it back to that family as support system and family as cheerleaders, basically, for each other kind of place to hopefully assuage any sort of drama that may come up in that area. But yeah, psychologically, this is going to be working on a lot of optimism and idealism around your home and your family and your notions of family. This could even be the growth of family. So someone being born too, or someone getting married and bringing in, expanding therefore the family as well, and that being a really positive thing. Also really helpful for integrating aspects of your personality that you take a lot of pride in and integrating them really deeply when they're in the fourth house there as well. Additionally, this could be digging into your family roots and learning more about that and leaning more into that, and maybe utilizing that also as a foundation for pride in yourself too. On a more kind of esoteric level, again, this speaks to matters of expansion, abundance, fortune, unity, justice. And so you may find that those are themes that you are encountering when you are processing or thinking about or meditating on those deep-seated connections of family and where is home, things like this. So there may be a sense of finally finding a place that feels like home even with this, or finding some unity within your family, things like this as well. But yeah, again, just kind of watching out for excess or complacency when it comes to home stuff, or spending too much time kind of procrastinating and relaxing. It may be a bit of a push and pull there, I think, for you based on the overall alignments that you have, but that Jupiter would be calling for like really leaning into a sense of relaxation. So just as long as you're not overdoing that, then that should be pretty fine. But yeah, let's go ahead then and talk about what is opposite to that Jupiter is going to be Pluto out here in Aquarius in your 10th house. So Pluto speaks to matters of power, transformation, regeneration, depth, surrender. And with this in Aquarius, it's going to speak to some major kind of purging and empowerment as well. And this is going to be in the area of your 10th house, which has to do with your legacy, your reputation, your public role, your career path, your sense of success in the world, and what it is that you're trying to create of your life, basically, out in the world. And this can bring a lot of power into that for good and for challenging as well. So there can be a really deep change or purging or empowerment when it comes to your career path. There may be some shadow aspects around ambition or notions of success that you're encountering. That might be why you are questioning some of these things as well. And so you may wind up like encountering power control dynamics within your working life, say people that you work with or with a boss. Unfortunately, this can definitely come through as a very domineering boss, and witnessing uncomfortable, strange power dynamics in the career as well. It may not be that you directly are subjected to that, though maybe at a certain point here, maybe around the July timeframe, when this opposition with Jupiter in your fourth gets really sharpest there. That could definitely be the case, that there's a challenge that is directly confronting you when it comes to something around power or control in your career. But ultimately, beyond just the power dynamics, the encounters around authority that can have some domineering qualities to it, it can also put you in touch with powerful people who are able to give you a really big leg up. And so with the trine between that Pluto and Uranus, that could be one of the ways in which you are experiencing a major quantum leap. So this could be, for instance, if you work for a company, not just your boss, but maybe a couple levels up taking notice of you. And there could be a pretty strong power dynamic differential between you. So that is something to keep in mind as to whether that is playing out in a healthy way. But it could be someone taking notice and shifting you way upward, or shifting you into a different department or something like this that feels a lot more empowering, basically. Now, aside from the people that you're dealing with, on a personal level, this is going to be really fundamental. It speaks to matters of like death and rebirth cycles. So endings that open you up into a new era or into a new life. So this can be major shifts when it comes to your career, your life direction, your reputation, your legacy. And this can be you desiring to have greater control over that, or desiring to feel more empowered within your professional life. So this can have you shedding those outdated professional personas. Maybe some of them have been kind of self-limiting. Maybe some of them just haven't resonated, and you've been trying for a long time and it's been like, why can't I get ahead with this? It may have just been a thing of needing to be, because of the way that this alignment is showing up. It would speak to this shift being noted and marked for this period of your life, but having been held in possibly some positions that were not the be all and end all. Maybe they were preparing you to take a different kind of a direction around this period of time now. So you can be really exercising a lot of control over your career and your public life direction too, which can be kind of transforming basically this area of your life. Truth tends to come into play quite a bit as well with Pluto. And so there may be some revelation or some kind of like subconscious drives or desires that are revealed to you when it comes to what it is that you are really wanting to create of yourself in your life, how it is that you want to carry authority, what it is that you define as success for you personally, and what kind of control is important for you to have over many different aspects of your life. This may be a sense of feeling super fed up with bosses that have some level of control over a lot of different aspects of your life because of the fact that maybe they control a very large part of your day, and also then impact your energy that you're carrying into other, like your family dynamics or your personal life, your children, your partnerships. This can have a really huge impact. And so there may be a really strong desire to have this kind of intense purification and renewal of this aspect of your life and to step out onto your own. Now, this would also be very much supporting that, but out of necessity, I mean, I definitely have to say, like, be careful about that. Take the steps that are really smart to take. Think things through with these air signs, with Uranus and Pluto here. Really think things through. Get your ducks basically in a row before you make a big decision like that. You may be able to work on both fronts of setting yourself up with something where you can be your own boss, but still meet the requirements of a current job, for instance. But this can also, again, it can just speak to stepping out of a specific role. If there is someone there that is really, really challenging or even specifically manipulative. If you have noticed that there's someone that is not always telling the truth, that, says what people want to hear, or says things that people definitely don't want to hear, things like this, and you're just kind of fed up with it. This can also speak to really taking hold of the wheel, basically, and pushing yourself in a new direction when it comes to your ambition. I would also, though, beware of that fear-based ambition. So feeling like, oh, I need to step on others to get ahead, or emulating that kind of power dynamic, that power differential kind of dynamic that may be going on around you. Try not to emulate that. Really try to lead with integrity when we're dealing with Pluto, because it is when we start to mess around with unhealthy power dynamics ourselves that Pluto can really give us a big old lesson to have to deal with. And the way that it's hooked into Uranus in the second house, there's opportunities for fallout for sure. So again, I would just say that divine discontent, if that's coming up, I would be hearing it out. I would be working on a CV. would be working on other options to make the changes that you're wanting to make. I would be trying your best to stay in a sense of integrity when it comes to any sort of position that you may carry, and try not to let fear or manipulation throw you off any more than, it absolutely would, right? So this is an opportunity to reclaim a sense of inner power and autonomy within your professional life, or what it is that you're basically known for in the world, what it is that you're trying to create of yourself in the world. And it does require a lot of emotional honesty, and healing of ego attachments typically is one of the ways that Pluto helps us, or one of the ways that we can best utilize it. And I would definitely recommend channeling the intensity of that Pluto into a sense of chasing your purpose, utilizing as your ambition, as your end goal, filling your sense of purpose and fulfillment in life, basically. So really going for that, trying not to let any sort of self-limiting beliefs or manipulative bosses, or feeling a need to step on others in ways that you're not comfortable with, etc., or other people's notions, those conventional notions of success. I would try your best to not let those cage you in around this time too. And of course, the shadow, watch out for kinds of things here: manipulation, control, obsession when it comes to your career path, power struggles. So I would try not to be getting into ego clashes with people within your working life, possibly even within your family life, though I do feel like often the stakes can be a little bit lower when it comes to the family life. But yeah, also when it comes to resistance to surrendering things that you know are not for you. So that would look like grasping onto a job that you hate because other people are saying that you need to have a specific amount of money coming in every year, whereas you know that your values are not quite aligned with that. You know that you hate it. You know that it's draining, those kinds of things. That, and I hate to use these kinds of ideas when it comes to career stuff, because I know that can be kind of scary. But it is when we are really in that self-denial that things like the kind of rug getting pulled out from under you can take place with those outer planet transits. So I would just try and get out ahead of those things. Try not to resist surrendering what's not for you, but also try to plan ahead. This doesn't have to be an all or nothing immediate kind of a thing. This is just planning for change, planning for a type of change that is going to enable you to feel like you have more autonomy in your life with Uranus and Pluto there. So yeah, on a psychological level, this is speaking to your instinct, your willpower, shadow integration and awareness of shadow when it comes to matters of ambition, as well as regeneration of probably a sense of purpose when it comes to your working life. On a more esoteric level, this is alchemizing with Pluto. So alchemizing difficult situations, challenges, stepping into a sense of power around that and deciding, I know that I can control the direction that this is going, and taking that on yourself, purifying, empowering yourself. There's also a sense of individuation and that rebirth that comes through with Pluto as well. So these may be some of the more kind of esoteric threads that you're experiencing when you are kind of engaging with your public life and your career path throughout this time. So now, finally, these areas of life, the 4th house and 10th house, these are going to be re-emphasized by the solar eclipses in this coming year. Now, we will continue with lunar eclipses along the themes of your 5th house, your sense of creativity and self-expression, and your sense of joy and pleasure, as well as in the 11th house, themes of colleagues, benefactors, friends, the groups that you belong to, your hopes, dreams, aspirations. That all is shifting into 4th and 10th. So it's coming to a more critical point where that fun-loving play and creativity, maybe some questions around children, some shifts with your children, that's coming more into your 4th house, where it's becoming angular in that 4th house. And it's speaking to matters of home and your core self and your own personal joy and pleasure and leisure in the Leo 4th house there. The North Node is shifting from the 11th house, which has to do with all of the social aspects and the dreams and aspirations aspects that kind of surround what is ultimately a career or reputation or legacy path, life direction for you. So that is also moving into that angular 10th, where it's speaking much more directly to, okay, what are we going to do about the shifts that we've had when it comes to our dreams and our aspirations recently, but also when it comes to the social changes that we've been experiencing. How can we maybe utilize some of that in order to open up doors for ourselves toward like professional self-empowerment? So this is now speaking much more, because the solar eclipses do tend to be a bit more louder. And those are the ones where on February 17th, we're getting a solar eclipse at 28 degrees, 27, 28 degrees of Aquarius, so up in your 10th house. And then on the 12th of August, we are going to be getting a solar eclipse, a total solar eclipse in Leo. That one's going to be around 20 degrees of Leo, if I'm remembering perfectly correctly. It's going to be late degrees. So these are our first solar eclipses in this axis, and we'll be getting those eclipses for about 2 years. So this is going to be, these areas of your life are about to shift and change. And that's that reason why I hung on that point of that Jupiter in the fourth can speak to moves that you're wanting to make, especially when we get the south node solar eclipses down in that fourth house. So that can speak to going somewhere new because you're releasing a home, or you're releasing a notion of family or something along these lines. Now, this may not be completed in this year. It may be, for sure. But sometimes with these eclipse series, it can be that we're getting the solar eclipse this coming Leo season that's going to set you up for maybe a major move with the next solar eclipse, next Leo season, for instance, in like 2027. So I would expect that there's going to be a move either that you're planning or that you're coming up with, or if not specifically a move, some major changes when it comes to your home life. Again, this can be a birth, this can be someone moving out or no longer having a specific energy within your family life, renovations, changes to your home. For instance, this could even be a local move or something along those lines, or creating a new family. This could be having a child, getting married, something along those lines that just fundamentally changes what your family is and how it's being experienced, and your home as well. So with the North Node then moving into your 10th house, and there now being eclipses up there, that also is really re-emphasizing the fact that there are some powerful changes that are coming through when it comes to, again, your life direction, your career path. This could be a huge step up. This could be you redefining what your public role should be, redefining what you want it to be, right? And what it is that you're going after. This can be really amplifying your ambitions as well, probably because you feel like they're better aligned now and you know what it is that you're aiming for. And you feel like maybe some doors have opened in recent years that you might be able to utilize with that. Again, the eclipse is going from your 11th house into your 10th house. You might actually be able to utilize in terms of making substantial like executive shifts in your life now. Now, the shadow side of this is going to be down there with the South Node in your 4th house. That can speak to, this is going to be very similar to what I said about Jupiter in that place. So seeking that family approval, or this sense of personal legacy, overemphasizing personal contribution over collective contribution, or over collaboration or working with others, or going like seeking out a comfort zone rather than pushing yourself toward what you know you could be good at if you were to maybe release some inhibitions or something like this, or release some doubts, or release some past difficult experiences maybe that you have had when it comes to your ambition. Sometimes we can feel like things get a bit shut down, and therefore we kind of shut ourselves down preemptively. So that's something that I would really recommend not doing around this period of time, because this is a really powerful alignment. So any sort of, again, life direction shifts that you would love to have, this would be the time to go really all in on those. And again, it doesn't have to be all or nothing all in, but all in as in making some of the shifts and changes that you're wanting to make there. You may even be called to be more visible around this time with that North Node in the 10th house. So getting the spotlight and trying your best not to shy away from the spotlight. In that case, interestingly, that Jupiter in Leo in your fourth house is going to help quite a bit with feeling a little bit more comfortable with that kind of energy. Yeah, a lot of visibility, recognition, sense of belonging as well. And really integrating your individual contributions with collective collaboration. So bringing those things into each other as well. And you do need to be seen often to do something like that. But yeah, I think that is pretty much what I have for you for 2026, Taurus, in terms of the broad strokes. Now, if you do want a personalized reading where I take into consideration your whole chart and all of the different positions that you have, definitely feel free to check that out at sociastrology.com. I offer that specific kind of year ahead reading. I also do natal readings and other things like that. And again, if you don't mind giving the video a thumbs up or a hype if this was helpful at all, I really greatly appreciate that. And do consider sticking around by subscribing for future videos. We tend to look at the major transits that are coming up each week and then taking that through the different houses and looking at how it's going to impact us all personally. So if that is of interest, yeah, do please consider subscribing. And other than that, I hope you have an absolutely beautiful year. And thank you so much for spending your time with me.